guys, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling, actually from Las Vegas, Nevada here. As you guys know, I'm here in Las Vegas this week for Kim's powerlifting meet, the Raw Nationals that start this weekend, and still going to be doing the videos, going to be doing them every day. Going to probably go out to Lake Mead and do one tomorrow, but today's video I want to talk about, and it's sort of pertinent to what is what made me think of this today. It's like 110 degrees here in Las Vegas, which I love the heat of the desert, man. The desert heat is one of my things that I love so much about Lake Mead. But I want to talk today about how heat affects bass in the summertime and what you need to do to sort of make it part of your game plan and how you can adapt to it. I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how it affects bass. Real quick, I just wanted to remind everybody, we finally got the block at Old School Jigs back up online at Baitworks. So I'll include the link in the description here, and you guys can get the jigs going there. We're getting ready to come out with a new color, so I'll keep you updated with that. Okay guys, let's talk a little bit about heat in the summertime, how heat affects bass. And heat, when we're talking about heat specifically, we're talking about water temperatures in the middle of the summer when it gets really hot. Now, a lot of it has to do with weather patterns because, you know, certain summers are just hotter than others. There's other factors that play into that, like with water levels in correlation with the water temperatures. But here's basically what happens for the most part, you know, as far as in the summertime when you're dealing with heat. There's two different elements to it. You've got some lakes that stratify and develop thermoclines. Some lakes do have a real definitive thermocline. Some lakes sort of have a weak thermocline. Some lakes don't have a thermocline. But what usually happens, and for the most part, this is around July somewhere, when that surface temperature starts getting, you know, really warm, and you have different, you know, variations in layers of water temperature, you develop a thermocline, usually anywhere between 15 to 30 feet deep, depending upon a lot of different variables that occurs during the hottest part of the summer. Now, not that bass can't go below that thermocline, but for the most part, they like to sort of stay above it because oxygen levels are a little bit better. That's one of the primary things that how heat affects bass in the summer on the deeper fish. But the point of this video here is I wanted to talk about how heat affects shallow water bass, shallow water target oriented bass, because in my opinion, that plays more of an impact as far as your approach goes. What happens when you're dealing with hot water, hot temperatures, hot water, is it's sort of like a paradox a little bit. You know, you've got some of those bass that are out deep, suspended out of deeper water, but at the same time, in the hottest part of the summer, when air temperatures are the hottest and it's just stagnant and sticky and super hot, and those water temperatures sometimes approach 90 degrees, that, guys, is when I catch some of the shallowest bass of the year. That's when they get super, super shallow. And it doesn't really matter what the water clarity is. When that water temperature gets 90 degrees, there's something about those the bass, the portion of the bass, the percentage of the bass in the lake will live in that super shallow water all summer long. And they do that for food, because most of the time, a lot of those bass are feeding on spawning bluegill, spawning perch. So those perch are spawning in that shallow water all summer long, usually from about June until, you know, into September. So a lot of these fish that live in that super shallow hot water are bluegill feeders, and with the variations as far as, you know, how the water mixes and everything, a lot of times you have more oxygen in that really shallow water. So some of the best catches that I have in the summertime are in water depths of like 1 to 3 feet, even if it's gin clear, guys. I have smacked them at Table Rock Lake where you would swear there's not a fish anywhere around, and you'll throw a whopper plopper or a spook up there in 1.5 feet of water. Water's 85, 90 degrees, and you'll have a big one just blasted out of the water. It happens every single summer, and it's pretty typical. Even here at Lake Mead, guys, I mean, it doesn't get any hotter in any lake across the country as it does here on Lake Mead as far as the air temperatures. And I've caught a ton of bass on Lake Mead in the middle of the summer in 1 to 2 foot of water. It's just gin clear water. Not only does it work in clear water, but this is one of my favorite time of years to fish dirty water too. I mean, when you're dealing with hot weather, hot water, one of the things that I like to do is I look for that water visibility, either super clear or super dirty. Now, if I go to the dirty water, most of the time I'm in the very back of the creek channels, as far up the river as I can. I'm pitching and flipping that jig or throwing a small crankbait like that Megabass Z2 or even a square bill around any shallow rock or wood in that super shallow water. And it doesn't matter if it's like not a breath of air and bright sun. If you've got water visibility of like 4 to 6 inches and you got water temperatures of 90 degrees, you can still catch a bunch of fish. I can't tell you guys how many fish that I've caught on the upper reaches like of the Neosho River at Grand Lake in the middle of the summer when it's so hot, you've got sweat pouring down off you, that water temperature is close to 90 degrees, and these good fish will be on that shallow, dirty water around those laydowns in a foot or two of water. So I think there's a misconception that occurred for many, many years that people say, oh, you got the dog days of summer and you know the bass they don't bite very good when it's get real hot, and that you got to get out early in the morning to catch them. That is a huge myth right there, guys. That was one of the biggest myths in fishing, is that you had to get out early in the morning to catch summertime bass. My favorite time to catch summertime bass is in the heat of the day. When it's brighter, the better, in my opinion. I've just caught tons of fish like that. So the point of the video is when you're dealing with the hottest part of summer, which will be coming up within the next month or so, next 3 weeks, next month, you've got two options. You've got an option of either fishing in and around that thermocline, usually for suspended fish. Sometimes if you have lakes that don't have a real definitive thermocline, or the thermocline starting to break up, those same fish will get on the bottom in 15 to 30 foot of water. That's one option. And then you have another option of fishing that super skinny, shallow water. And in my opinion, most of the lakes across the country, you have about probably a 60-40 mix. I think about 60% of the bass in the summertime live out in that deeper water regardless of the water clarity. And I think about 40% of the bass will live shallow regardless of the water clarity. So anyway, I hope that sort of gave you guys a little bit of insight to what hot weather or hot water does to the bass. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be with you guys all week long. We're going to be heading back to Missouri on Monday, but I'll be putting out a couple videos a day. And it's gonna suck going out to Lake Mead not having my boat here, because it's just, I love fishing that lake so much. But we'll go out there and talk about the lake a little bit the next day or so. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you all doing well.